"This is the town my pappy told me about," played on this image of an eroticized France. In the months before and after the landings, military propaganda gave such preconceptions new life for a second generation of soldiers. As a result, the general opinion along the line was that, in Life journalist Joe Weston's words, France was a tremendous brothel inhabited by 40 million hedonists who spent all their time eating, drinking, and making love. This sexual fantasy, in turn, had an important political effect, which was to complicate the post-war French bid for political autonomy. At all levels of military command, officials shared the prejudice that the French were morally degraded and therefore perhaps not able to govern themselves. By so flagrantly disregarding sexual and social norms in Le Havre, the GIs also expressed their moral condescension, relaying the message that it was hardly necessary to behave in a civil manner toward the French. If GIs were having sex wherever they pleased, that was because the inhabitants of Le Havre, as respectable members of a community, as citizens of a sovereign nation, had become invisible to them. Weed's response to Voisin also registered growing confidence on the part of the U.S. military that it could have the world its way. That confidence dictated that American soldiers needed an outlet for their sexual energies, so French women should provide one. It valued the health of the American soldier more than that of the French prostitute. Finally, U.S. military policy protected American families from the spectacle of GI promiscuity, while leaving French families unable to escape it. Sexual relations gained political significance during the years of the American presence in France, because the period was transitional for both nations. The United States was crossing the golden threshold of global power. By contrast, France was waking up to its many losses. The defeat of 1940 had been a catastrophe, the German occupation a humiliation. Now the presence of American soldiers on French soil meant liberation, yes, but also evidence of international decline. That disparity in war fortunes meant the two nations had many matters to work out between them. First was the issue of French sovereignty. Would the army impose a military government like the one already established in Italy? Or would the French be allowed to govern themselves? Also vital was the role of the United States in Europe. Its military victory on the continent was absolute, and it had established bases throughout France and Germany. How much would this triumphant new power come to dominate a broken Europe? Much can be learned about these questions, this book argues, by looking at how the U.S. military managed GI sexual intimacy in France. There is no question that the United States took advantage of its military presence in France to influence a great deal of economic and political life there. Managing sex between GIs and French women was a key component of this control. The U.S. government harbored no imperial ambitions within Europe, but it did seek to control a European balance of power for several reasons: to create a frontier against the Soviet Union, to protect Europe from communism, and to delineate a sphere of influence that would enhance its global power. While the landings were a noble mission, they also opened a pivotal phase in the rise of American political dominance. As the historian Irvin Wall has put it, by the end of the war, the Americans had tried to, and discovered that they could not, make and break French regimes. But they had also become accustomed to the exercise of an unprecedented degree of meddling in internal French affairs. The question of French autonomy had not yet been decided at the time of the Allied invasion. The U.S. military seemed determined to wrest sovereignty from its only credible bidder, General Charles de Gaulle. Neither Franklin D. Roosevelt nor Winston Churchill formally recognized de Gaulle as a sovereign leader, despite his control over much of the resistance and the Committee of National Liberation, CFLN, which operated at both local and national levels. The Anglo-American military alliance was not committed to a free France.